Hello, my name is Amanda Spencer and I am 98 years old. If you want to hear a story, stick around because I was watching the television the other day when some documentary about the war showed up. Always the same footage: men in tanks, men in planes, men storming beaches. And then, for about 5 seconds, they showed the women. And what are we doing? We're knitting socks. Or we're kissing them goodbye at the train station, waving our little handkerchiefs, looking sad and helpless. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. If you think half the world just sat down and knitted for 6 years while the other half blew itself up, you aren't paying attention. We didn't just wait. We didn't just keep the home fires burning. We were the fuel. Come here. Pull that chair closer. I don't tell this to just anyone. My grandson, he thinks I worked in a bakery. And I did, for the first 2 months. A bakery. As if I could bake a loaf of bread that didn't double as a doorstop. Let me tell you about 1942. The year the world went mad, and I woke up. I was 21. I had legs that went on for days and a mouth that got me in trouble every time I opened it. My fiancé, Thomas, God rest him, he was already in North Africa. I was living in a boarding house in London with 3 other girls, Sarah, Mary, and Dot. Dot was the quiet one, tiny thing, looked like a stiff breeze would snap her in two. One night I come home from the bakery, which was actually a munitions factory by then, putting caps on shells until my hands smelled like sulfur and copper. And I find Dot in the kitchen. She's burning papers in the sink. Now, you have to understand the atmosphere then. Paranoia was like the fog. It was everywhere. Careless talk costs lives. So I see her burning papers and my heart stops. I think, is she a spy? Is she German? I walked in. I said, Dot, what are you doing? She spun around. She looked terrifying, not scared. Terrified is different. She looked like iron. She said, Jenny, if you tell anyone, I will have to kill you, and I know how to do it without leaving a mark. I believed her, this little mouse of a girl. It turned out Dot wasn't a secretary at the insurance firm. She was a decoder. Bletchley Park? Oh, everyone knows about Bletchley now. Benedict Cumberbatch and all that. But back then, it didn't exist. It was a hole in the ground where they poured genius and silence. She wasn't burning codes. She was burning a letter from a lover, a woman. That's the first thing they don't tell you in the history books. The desperation made us fluid. Rules didn't apply when the sky could fall on your head at any moment. You grabbed happiness with both hands, and you didn't look at who was attached to it. You just held on. You want some tea? No? I'll have a drop of sherry then. Helps the joints. People talk about the Blitz like it was just noise. It wasn't just noise. It was the vibration. It rattled your teeth. It shook the pins out of your hair. After the munitions factory, I got bored. Can you imagine being bored in a war? But putting caps on shells is dull work. I wanted to do something. I met a man named Mr. Henderson, or at least that's what he called himself. He drove a lorry. He told me they needed drivers, not for the army, for the market. Now don't look at me like that. It wasn't the black market. Well, maybe it was a shade of gray. You see, rationing was strict. An egg was a luxury. A real orange? You trade your wedding ring for a real orange. But people still needed things. Hospitals needed extra bandages. Orphanages needed milk. And the official channels? Red tape. So much red tape you could strangle yourself with it. So at night, with the blackout curtains drawn tight, I drove a 3-ton lorry. Me, Birdie Ainsworth. I'd barely driven a bicycle before. I remember the first night, no headlights. You had to drive by moonlight and memory. If you turned on your lights, the wardens would scream at you, or worse, the Luftwaffe would use you for target practice. I was moving, let's say, supplies. We moved penicillin before the hospitals officially had it. We moved silk for parachutes that somehow turned into stockings for the girls at the dance halls. Because morale is a weapon too. Don't you forget that. If the women are miserable, the men have nothing to fight for. One night, I'm driving through the East End. Rubble everywhere, the smell of wet plaster and gas, and I get a flat tire. A flat, bloody tire in the middle of a raid. I hear the whistle. You know that sound? It starts high, like a scream, and then it drops. It's the sound of the devil inhaling. I dive under the lorry. I'm lying there in the mud, praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in. And I see a pair of boots. German boots? No, too small. It was a boy, maybe 12. He's looting. He's got a loaf of bread under his arm. He sees me. I see him. The bomb hits 2 streets over. The ground jumps. I hit my head on the axle. When the dust settled, he didn't run. He crawled under with me. He broke the bread in half. We sat there under a lorry full of stolen medical alcohol, eating dry bread while the world ended around us. I never asked his name. He helped me change the tire. He was stronger than he looked. I gave him a bottle of the alcohol. I said, don't drink it, sell it, buy shoes. I wonder if he made it. Now, about the romance. The books always show the girl kissing the soldier on the train platform. The wait for me kiss. Oh, honey, we waited. But we were alive. The Americans. When they arrived, it was like someone turned the color saturation up on the world. They were loud. They walked loose like they owned the pavement. And they had nylon and chocolate and cigarettes that didn't taste like burning leaves. I was still engaged to Thomas. Thomas was a good man, solid, English, like a brick. But he was in Africa, and I hadn't had a letter in 4 months. Then I met Cal. Cal was from Louisiana. He had a voice like warm syrup. He was a pilot. He knew he was going to die. They all knew. The pilots had the eyes of ghosts even when they were laughing. We met at a dance, the jitterbug. Lord, I haven't moved like that in 70 years. My hips ache just thinking about it. He spun me around and he said, "Ma'am, if I step on your toes, it's 'cause I'm blinded by your beauty." Cheesy, so cheesy. But I fell for it. We had 3 weeks. That's the hidden history part, the affairs. The war widows who weren't widows yet. We knew it was wrong. The church said it was wrong. The neighbors said it was wrong. But when you look at a man and you know he's flying a tin can into a wall of flak tomorrow morning, morals get flexible. We lived a lifetime in 3 weeks. We picnics in bomb craters, nature reclaiming the destruction, grass growing out of a shattered living room. We made love in places I won't mention because I'm a lady mostly. I got pregnant. I never told him. He went up on a Tuesday, didn't come back, shot down over France. And there I was, engaged to Thomas, pregnant by a dead American. This is the part where women held society together. It wasn't just working the factories. It was keeping the secrets. It was fixing the unfixable. I went to my aunt. She lived in the country. The country cure, they called it. I lost the baby. Nature took care of it. Or maybe the stress did. I cried for 3 days. Then I washed my face, put on my lipstick, and went back to the lorry. When Thomas came home in 45, he never knew. He said I looked older, more mature. I wasn't older, Thomas. I was hollowed out and rebuilt with steel. Let me tell you about Mrs. Gable. She lived downstairs, 60 years old, looked like a grandmother from a storybook. Baked scones, knitted tea cozies. She was the most dangerous woman I ever met. Everyone thought she was deaf. She wore this big hearing aid, a box strapped to her chest. She'd nod and smile when you spoke to her. Yes, dear. No, dear. One day I come down to borrow sugar. Her door is cracked open. I hear her speaking. Perfect, fluent German. I stood there frozen. Was she a Nazi? Here? In our boarding house? She opens the door. She sees me. She pulls me inside. Her grip was like a vice. She takes the hearing aid off. It wasn't a hearing aid. It was a radio receiver. She wasn't a German spy. She was listening to them. She was SOE, Special Operations Executive. But she was too old to drop behind lines, so they used her as a monitor. She sat in that armchair, knitting tea cozies, listening to U-boat frequencies. She looked at me and said, Jenny, sit down. If you tell a soul, I'll poison your tea. And then she poured me a cup. She taught me something that day. She said, the best camouflage is to be exactly what they expect you to be. They expect an old woman to be useless, so I can be invisible. We, the women, we weaponized our invisibility. We carried messages in baby prams. Who checks a baby's nappy for microfilm? We sewed maps into the linings of coats. We memorized codes masked as knitting patterns. Purl 1, knit 2 could mean blow the bridge at midnight. And yet, when the war ended, what happened? Thank you, ladies. Go home, make a sandwich, have babies. They fired us, all of us. The factories wanted the men back. The pilots wanted their cockpits. Mrs. Gable went back to just being an old lady. Dot went back to filing insurance papers. It was like the color drained out of the world again. We had tasted power. We had tasted freedom. We had driven 3-ton trucks and decoded enemy secrets. And then we were told to worry about which detergent gets stains out best. My throat gets dry when I get angry. But here is the real secret, the one I promised to tell you. We didn't forget. They made us go home, yes, but we didn't go back to who we were. We raised our daughters differently. Why do you think the 60s happened? You think that just appeared out of nowhere? No. We whispered to our daughters. I whispered to my girl, your mother. I told her, don't you ever let a man tell you you're just a decoration. I drove a lorry through the Blitz. You can be an astronaut. We planted the seeds. We were the soil. I look at you now. You have a job. You have a bank account in your own name. You don't need a husband's permission to get a credit card. Can you believe we needed that? You stand on my shoulders, and on Dot's, and on Mrs. Gable's, and on the boy with the bread. I'm tired now. Talking about the dead takes it out of you. But listen to me. One last thing. The world is getting scary again, isn't it? I see it in your eyes. You're worried about wars, about the climate, about politicians who shout too loud. Don't be afraid. We survived the end of the world. We did it with lipstick on and a radio in a tea cozy. We did it by holding hands in the dark. If we could keep the world turning when the sky was falling, so can you. You just have to decide. Are you going to be the one who waits, or are you going to be the one who drives the lorry? Now help me up. I think I hid that butterscotch tin behind the clock. And if you tell the nurse I had a sherry, I'll tell everyone you still sleep with a teddy bear. Go on now. Live your life. Make it a story worth telling when you're 99.